1975 was an interesting year. That year, the Vietnam War ended, that movie that made everyone scared of swimming was released, and Iceland and Britain got into war over some cod. And to top it all off, a Russian naval officer tried to kickstart a second Russian Civil War, and nobody in the West found out until years later. Meet Sablin. Valery Sablin was born in Leningrad on the 1st of January 1939. This turned out to be an absolutely terrible move, as just 2 years later the Germans came knocking and completely surrounded Leningrad, which killed about 800,000 of the city's population, most of them dying from starvation and the cold. Sablin wasn't one of them though, and growing up he was given a fairly standard Soviet upbringing. He was taught how great the October Revolution was and how great of a system communism was. Sablin wholeheartedly believed in this. The problem is he believed in it a little too much. Sablin became a massive fan of communism, but looking around him, he saw that the communism the USSR didn't work anything like he thought it should. Millions of people had been killed. Corruption was through the roof, and there was absolutely no democracy. Sablin was pretty unhappy about this. Very unhappy. Wow, I wonder if this becomes important later. Anyway, since both his dad and his grandfather served in the Navy, he also joined the Navy, joining the Franz Naval Institute at the age of 16. He graduated in 1960, found a wife and had one son. At the age of 30 he was offered the job of a commander on a large ship, but Sablin turned this down and went to study at the Lenin Military Political Academy so that he could become a political commissar. Now one thing you'll quickly realise about Sablin is that although he's a very brave guy, he's not exactly a smart guy. There's no better example of this than that one time he wrote a letter to the leader of the Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev, asking him to crack down on corruption in the Communist Party. Sablin got lucky and was just reprimanded. In 1973 he graduated from the Lenin Military Political Academy and was assigned to a destroyer called the Staroshvoy. As political commissar, his job was to keep everyone in line and make sure everyone knew just how great communism was. He did do this, however he put his own spin on this. And for 2 years he did basically nothing but talk about how great communism was, but also how bad the current Soviet government was. In 1975, on the anniversary of the October Revolution, Sablin and his men were stationed in Riga, and Sablin decided it was his time to act. He locked the captain of the ship and a few other officers in a room, and then played the film Battleship Potemkin for the rest of the crew. It's a silent film where the crew of a Russian battleship rebel against their officers. After the film was over, Sablin explained his plan to the crew. Sail from Riga to Leningrad, up the Neva River, until they reached the decommissioned cruiser Aurora. Here Sablin planned to use radio and television broadcasts to protest the corruption of the Soviet Union. The way he saw it, the Soviet Union had essentially sold out, and the Third Russian Revolution was necessary. He hoped that after hearing the broadcast, the people of the USSR would rise up against the government and that they would be able to create a new, perfect communist society. Unfortunately for Sablin, not everything went according to plan. One of the junior officers Sablin had locked away had managed to escape and radioed the Navy telling them what was happening. All of the higher-ups in the Navy started panicking, and they woke up the current leader of the Soviet Union, Brezhnev, in the middle of the night to explain the situation. By the time the Staroshvoy had left the Gulf of Riga, they already had 13 battleships and 10 planes after them. They bombed and fired on the Staroshvoy until the steering was damaged and it couldn't move anymore. After this, the crew turned on Sablin, releasing the captain and shooting Sablin in the leg and hanging him upside down from the ceiling. Now Sablin was tried and found guilty of treason, and even though the punishment for this was usually a 15-year-long prison sentence, the Soviets just decided, nah, kill him. And Sablin was executed on the 3rd of August 1976. Everyone else on the ship was let go, except Sablin's second-in-command Alexander Shane, who was given an 8-year prison sentence. The USSR didn't want the world to know about Sablin's uprising, so they just said that the crew was trying to defect to the West. And people didn't find out the truth until after the USSR had collapsed. Rather unexpectedly, however, Sablin will go on to be relatively popular, with his story inspiring the book and film Hunt for Red October, and he's also a character in a popular video game mod. It's hardly the legacy Sablin would have wanted, but it's still something. But anyway guys, that's it for today's video. Subscribe if you want to see me make more videos like this, and comment any cool ideas for videos you have down below. See you next time.